Shirlene with the Southern Gal Show, and I want to welcome you here today and every Thursday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 Eastern. We have different guests and different topics each week, but tonight we're going to talk about building a passive income stream. So, is your income enough to last you to age 100 and beyond? Last week we talked about the blue zones, living to 100 and beyond, and we ended the show with, well, you can live a healthier life, and 1 in 6,000 people, statistics show, are living to be 100 and beyond. Actually, one lady's 116 right now, and she's still in good health and still gets around pretty good. So it's pretty amazing. That's in America. But living longer also means you need more income, and we don't want to wait until we get to 90 or 100 to start worrying about that, because the statistics I looked up today said most of the people living that long live in poverty. And that's because their income is running out. There's just not enough. And you have medical, you have other things going. So we're going to talk today. Lynn's going to talk with us about building that passive income. Lynn is an author. He's written books on parenting. He's written books on building wealth, and he can tell you about his books and where to get them. But Lynn's also used to be my coach when I took coaching classes, and just a really amazing person and a good friend. So we're going to let Lynn introduce himself just a little bit, and then I'll start with a few questions.
Well, good evening, Shirley.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. You're right, it's a fascinating topic. Let me tell our viewers just a little bit about myself. I want to keep this very brief because I want it to be about them, not about me. But, back in the early 1980s, my children came to live with me. I became a single parent. I was a single parent for 14 years, and I may have just aged myself. I don't know. But I learned about the work from home world when my kids came to live with me, because I quickly found that I could either have my kids or I could have my job, but I really couldn't do both. And I have nothing but admiration for women in particular, and men in general too, who actually do have children at home and work. And I mean single parents, single mothers, single fathers. But I learned about the work from home world, and I spent quite a few years working from home while the kids lived with me. Then I went back to the corporate world, then I came back to the work from home world. So I've been in the work from home world again since around 2013, for the last 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty familiar with it.
Okay. Well, can you tell us a little bit why we need more money when we retire, and tell us why Social Security and 401ks? Well, statistics have proven they're not enough, because, again, statistics show most of the really aging people are living in poverty. The older they get, the worse it seems like it gets.
Well, that's right. There are really several. First off, how many times have we heard people say, when I retire, I'm going to fill in the blank? When are you going to when I retire? When are you going to go visit the grandkids? Oh, when I retire.
Mm-hmm.
People have this illusion that when they retire, they're going to need less money, because they figure it costs money to go to work. You have to buy work clothes, you have to commute, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is all these things that we're going to do, quote, when we retire, they cost money. And so people find out that they hit retirement age, whatever that happens to be, and we'll talk about that in a minute. They find out they hit retirement age, and suddenly retirement is staying at home, making the minimum payments on the charge accounts, just like when they were working, if they're lucky to have enough money to be making minimum payments.
Right. Well, and a lot of people have more medical bills when they're retired, and they also, people think when their kids are grown and they retire, they'll have all this money. But you know what? Reality hits in. You have grandkids that you want to do things for too. And I know people that are still getting up in their years and still working as a Walmart greeter, and there's nothing wrong with being a Walmart greeter. You get out of the house, you get to socialize. But there comes an age when, are you doing that because you need the money, or are you doing that because you really want to? And there is a difference.
Well, that's right.
Talk about way to get that passive income, then it's your choice if you want to work out or not.
Well, that's right. I don't know what the average is, but I sure as heck wouldn't want to be one of them when I'm 75 years old, which, by the way, isn't very far away from me. I can count there on less than one hand. Um, but here's the truth. Yeah, the reason these people are being Walmart greeters is because they need the income. They don't have a source of income. Let's just look at what happens. You know, we have this illusion that still permeates part of the society, and I want to talk about millennials separately, but let's stay with the baby boomers and et cetera. We have this illusion that permeates the society that the right path is to grow up, go to college, get an education, get a job, maybe change jobs 2 or 3 times, work for whoever you're going to work for, doing whatever you're going to do, and then retire when you're 65 with a gold watch and a pension. Well, there are several things wrong with that scenario. It simply doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? First off, by the time we get to age 65 and we're ready to retire, or 70, whatever the age is, well, there are several things wrong with that scenario. It simply doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? First off, by the time we get to age 65 and we're ready to retire, or 70, whatever the age is, many times we've worked ourselves to death. We've lost our health. And in fact, I'm going to once again refer people to a book that I think is a fascinating little read called The Parable of the Pipeline. We talked about it a bit last week. Many people lose their health in their 50s and 60s. And it's often been said, if you survive your first heart attack, you may live to be a ripe old age. Mm-hmm. The challenge there is that we lose our health. In fact, we lose our health, and then we spend all the money that we had saved up for retirement to try to recover our health. So if we're lucky, we hit our mid-60s, we have our health back because we just paid to recover it, but we're broke, so we have to keep working.
Right.
Now, you might say, well, how about Social Security? Well, this is a roll of the dice. Social Security was implemented when the retirement age was 65 and the average life expectancy was something like 63. Now,
yeah.
Just pump.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to live on, really. They didn't intend to pay much of it out.
And the Social Security funds have been raided for other things.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it's reasonable to think that we're going to live to be 60, we're going to retire at 65 or 70, live to be 100 or longer, and live off of Social Security, and can collect Social Security for that length of time. Social Security is not adequate to pay for the living expenses in the United States for most people.
No, it's not.
And it sure as heck isn't adequate to fulfill that fantasy we've had for all those working years that we're going to be able to go travel and visit our friends and visit the relatives and do the things we've dreamed of doing.
Yep.
We're in debt. We're in a debt-ridden society. We have to change that equation if we want to have any comfort in our senior years.
Yep. A lot of people are retiring and getting older, and then they're finding out like you just said, they don't have the money to do what they want to do. They're living a very modest lifestyle when they thought they could be out roaming the beaches of the world, but they don't have the money to do it. They don't even have the money to take their families out to eat, or maybe go out and eat as much as they want to themselves. So right now, nobody's going out to eat, but that will pass in a week or two. Or whatever. But I mean, the point is, people do live, instead of living this happy, joyous time to do what you really want to do, whatever that age is you decide to retire, they can't do it because they don't have the money. And I think that's just really, really sad. And what we want to do is to help people have that money. You've got to start, whatever age you are, planning for that retirement time, and you need passive income. You do something one time and it pays you over and over and over. It's not like a job. It's not like if you have a business and you got to get people on auto ship and you've got to have customers, you got to continually sell, or you don't make any money. We're going to talk about passive income. You can do something one time and just get paid forever. And that income can build instead of going down.
And I think the term we could introduce here also is residual income. And what does residual income mean? So an example of residual income is you write a book once and you can sell it for years and years and years. And every time the book sells, you get royalties off the book.
Right.
You're a musician, you publish music. Now, most of us aren't musicians and authors, but that's an example of residual income. So what we want to do is we want to look at how can we build residual income so that when we hit our retirement years, we actually have some additional income coming in to help support us. Now, one way to do that is, of course, to have an IRA and a 401k. Those can be considered residual incomes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to argue that very few people have enough money in their IRA or their 401k to really sustain themselves through an extended retirement.
No, yeah.
I'm going to argue, and I mean, we don't have graphs and spreadsheets and stuff in front of us, but I'm going to argue that you need probably the equivalent of $5 million in the bank when you're 65 or 70 if you're going to live off that account for the next 20 to 30 years. But let's just look at a modest income in America. A modest income is $50,000 a year. That's $500,000 in 10 years. That means if you're going to live 25 or 30 years, it's got to be at least $2 to $3 million. Now let's take inflation into account. You're looking at needing about $5 million to retire comfortably. Most people don't have that kind of money in the bank.
No.
Even people that have 401ks, they may have a few $100,000 and they think they're set.
Not for long term. It might last you till that 75 or 80, maybe, and even then it might not. But when you look at that, and people are living to 90 and 100, and one lady 116, another lady I researched today in good health was 103. People are living longer.
Well, absolutely.
They're going to have more money.
And I personally, let me just talk a little bit about what telomere shortening is. Your DNA, your genes, not the genes you pull up and put a belt on, your genes that run your body. Every time your genes replicate, a little bit of the end of the gene gets damaged in the process. It's sort of like a shoelace. When you tie your shoe, you damage the little tip. Sooner or later, the tips fail, and the shoelace doesn't fit through the little holes anymore. Mm-hmm. Genes work similarly. The telomeres, the end of the genes, get damaged every time your genes replicate. Right. Based on gene replication, telomere shortening, it appears that the human being is capable intrinsically of about 120 years. Mm-hmm. So let's just go. Now you might ask people, well, do you want to live to be 120? And most people are going to say no. But why? They're going to say no because their vision of being 100 to 120 is poor health, no money. Well, that's what we want to fix. Mm-hmm. We want to teach them how to have money and to maintain their health. And we talked about health last week when we talked about the blue zones.
Right. Let me interrupt you just a minute, Lynn. We're going to have to go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back, okay?
Hey guys, I'm Sharita.
And I'm Chris.
And we want to invite you guys to join us on Thursdays for our Battle Ready Marriage show. It starts at 8:30 Eastern Time and 7:30 Central. Chris, tell us what it's about.
So on the Battle Ready Marriage, we talk about different things. Mainly these three things. So we want to transform relationships, take it to the next level. We want to battle ready marriages. And if you're just starting and you want to go into a relationship, we teach you how to prepare for that relationship and make it one for the ages. Again, my name is Coach Chris.
And I'm Sharita. And we want you to go out and dominate your space.
We are back, and Lynn Moody is my guest today on the Southern Gal Show, and he's talking about how to build residual or passive whichever word we're using here, residual income, income that will last you through those aging years. And I know you might think, well, even if you don't live to 100, if you have this extra passive income, you're certainly going to be able to get out there and enjoy life more, because money does become necessary if you want to get out and enjoy life. Eat out, traveling. A lot of people look at traveling when they're older, and they just don't have the money. And sometimes they don't have the health, but sometimes they don't have the health or the money. So you're going to have to build that retirement income. It is never too early or too late to start. If you didn't start before retirement, you can still start now. If you're 20, you can start when you're 20. And so we just need to get in there and do what we need to do. And yes, it takes some work beyond your regular job. You don't have to quit your job to do this either. That's just a myth. You can build a residual income working 8 to 10 hours a week. You're going to build slower than somebody who does more, but yes, you can do it. I'm going to turn it back over to Lynn and let him talk a little bit about it.
Well, let's talk about ways to build an additional income stream. Let's start with the assumption that you are an employee. You have a job, a 9-to-5 real job. We'll call it carrying buckets. You're carrying buckets of something from somebody to someplace else. And what I mean by that is that whatever your boss tells you to do, that's what you're doing. I mean, you're basically hired labor, and that's fine. And the more buckets you carry, the more money you make. And the bigger your bucket is, the more money you make. So a lawyer might have a bigger bucket than a janitor, for example, and be making more money. But we all end up in the same place. We end up fundamentally broke because we spend all the money in our buckets that we make. So how can we build a residual income stream? Well, one way is to have another business. Now, you might consider a franchise, for example. Most people don't realize that a franchise, and it sounds like a great thing to do, but most people don't realize, first off, the average cost of a franchise is around $30,000 to $35,000. Really
Or
good,
more.
Pardon me?
Or more, actually, nowadays. Yeah.
Well, really good franchises,
Yeah,
like
they're expensive.
if you want a McDonald's, you need between $1.5 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
McDonald's, and they require that you have at least a half of that liquid, like $750,000 in the bank, not loaned, not borrowed from somebody, in the bank, liquid. Even so, franchising is expensive, and there's no guarantee that you will ever get a return on that investment. It may be 3 to 5 years before you earn a profit from your franchise, and it takes a lot of time to run a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So what else can you do? Well, you can sell from home. You can get a product line, home healthcare products, or skincare products, or beauty products, or etc. And you can sell from home. Now, I'm going to use a term here that a lot of people see as a negative, but I'm going to use a term called direct sales or network marketing. Direct sales is, I have a product line. I go to work for a company that builds a product line, say health and wellness, and then I sell those products to my friends, family, etc., and I earn an income. And if I build that income stream, it can last for a very long time. Now, many people have a negative feeling about that kind of opportunity, but the reality is it's a great opportunity if done properly. And the if done is very important. You know, Enron went out of business. There are a lot of good companies that fail, and there have been companies that have failed, and there's been some that have done things illegally, but there are also very good ones. But you don't also have to have a product, a physical product. Physical products can be very difficult, but you can have another kind of product. What kind of product would we call it, Shirley, when it's not a physical product, but it's
a service product?
Service product.
You're providing a service.
Yeah. So for example, you you can sell travel. You can help people save money on trips that they already want to take. And there are ways to do that where you earn money when they actually save money. Have you ever heard of something like that?
Yes, and one of the things I like about service marketing in a way, or opportunities, you don't have to continually be selling products. I used to be in a product online business, and you're always having to sell product, get people on auto ship, and then you turn around in 2 or 3 years, and they're off auto ship. Sometimes they're off in 6 months. And then you've got to get more people on. You've got to train. It's a lot of work. And the older you get, you got grandkids to play with, you might not want to do all that work. There is a better model, and that is being in the service industry where people can just buy what they want to buy and you can still make money.
It's possible for you to be what we call an affiliate for companies like Amazon or eBay.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that's the best way, but I'm suggesting this will make it easy for people to understand. If you're an affiliate of Amazon, then you go to your friends, family, etc., and you ask them if they're going to purchase anything from Amazon to purchase through you. And when they purchase, you earn a small percentage of that purchase. And that can go on for a very long time.
But it's a very small percentage, though.
Teeny tiny small, but that's
Yeah,
something
it's very small.
that's something that I think people could understand the concept.
Mm-hmm.
So let's escalate the concept. What if your product is travel, or what if it's internet services, or what if it's
phone service?
Mobile service,
Yeah.
or an
Cable.
Uber
Yeah,
drive there, where
things
you
that people are doing anyway.
things people were doing anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to convince them to do something that they're not already doing,
Mhm.
which many network marketing companies, in order to sell the product, you have to convince people that they need a product that they've never heard of before. And I can think of several companies that they sell lotions and potions and this and that. And you got to go convince somebody that they have a problem that they didn't know they had, to convince them to buy something they didn't know they need. And, 2 or 3 months and they get tired of that and they don't want to do it anymore. And besides that, many of these companies, you can find their products out on Amazon, and you can find them cheaper than you can get from the company itself.
Mhm.
So why would anybody want to do that? You lose your customer base.
Mhm.
But if you have a situation where the customers join for free and they only use the product when they want to use it, like
Or if they want to.
if they want to, yeah.
If they want to and when they want to. Yes.
And you make a percentage off of it if they actually happen to save money on the product they're buying, then you have a win-win situation here. And that kind of opportunity exists. And it's an amazing opportunity for people.
Mhm.
And
It's a way of building a really good residual income because you're giving away, you're getting customers for free. You give away a code or whatever, but you get them, the customer never pays for that service. So they technically they're always going to be your customers. They never go away. And you build and you build and you build. And over the years, the more services they have that they buy and they want to use, the more money you're going to make. And you can have a $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 a year retirement income just based on giving away things now. And then over time, that builds and builds and builds. You can even build that $1 million a year income if you want to, but that's kind of a different side of it. But it's pretty easy to get this residual income just based on giving something away that people already are doing. They're already taking rides and ride shares. They're already getting car rentals. They're already people. Again, they're not traveling today or tomorrow, but they're going to be traveling massively in a month or two because they're going to get tired of sitting home. And so they're going to get out and, it's going to be back to normal again. And travel's not going away, folks. It's going to be there.
afford them. The reason they can't afford them, there's no place to park them. They can afford the car. They just can't afford the parking.
That's right.
Millennials are they're not buying cars. They're using Uber. Okay. If you live in a big city, it is cheaper to use rideshare, Uber, Lyft, than it is to own a car because you can't afford to own a car.
Yeah.
So the world is changing. The world is drifting away from the idea that you have to own stuff to the idea that you have to share stuff.
Mhm. Well, and cars are expensive too. Not only buying them, maybe you don't have room to park it, but even if you do have room to park it, like where I live, people have room to park it, but they're expensive and the upkeep on them is expensive. I mean, cars are expensive. A lot of people are just going with ride shares. It's a cheaper route in the long run. You don't have to do anything to that car when it breaks. It's not your fault.
Absolutely. You even have things like every day now for Uber Eats. The restaurants are closed, but the takeout service is still running, and you can call Uber Eats and have it delivered to your house.
Yeah.
No charge, no extra charge.
Right.
The restaurants are subsidizing the delivery service.
Right.
So,
And they're using that for conferences and meetings now too. People are doing that. Somebody told me today they did that. It happens every day, and that is where the world's going. That's exactly where it's going.
look at Airbnb.
Yeah.
Airbnb is a big company now, and they don't own a piece of real estate anywhere in the world.
Right.
So we're moving away from the old idea that we have to own things to a new concept of sharing, rideshare, Airbnb, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to build a residual income. Now, the other thing to point out here is you mentioned money. You mentioned even up to $1 million, for example, and you can do that. But the vast majority of people only need a little bit of extra money to help them out. We've seen statistically people that go into bankruptcy could have avoided bankruptcy if they had an extra $500 a month.
Right.
So it's not that you have to build a really big income, but you need a little bit of extra money to help you get the things you want to get, to do the things you want to do, and to do all those things that you put off to retirement.
Right. And building that extra few $1,000s a month or even 1,000 really is not all that. It's not nearly as hard as people think. The hard work, if you want to build that $1 million income a year, yeah, you got to work at that. But it's not really so hard to do the other. I mean, we're doing things that those other kinds of incomes are they don't take a lot of your time to build that. Well, Lynn, I appreciate you being here today. Our time is up, and we all want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise at our old age and get out there and enjoy life and travel the beaches of the world. I appreciate y'all being here. Next week, I'm going to talk about herbs, about 10 different herbs that you can easily get your hands on. They're in the stores and they're probably in your house, on how to build your immune system. We're going to get back to that health thing a little bit. And these are things you should be doing every day. So if you're interested in that, meet with me next week, I guess. And I'm going to give you all that information.
That matter. If you want to hear more of these stories, go over to ordinarypeople.tv/join.